The J. Michaels Show.
We are up to episode 63, and man, I have been looking forward to this show because we're talking to a guy that I know has the answer to a lot of questions I have on mysteries, and he's wonderful. He's fantastic. We've done a few UFO conventions together. Let's just introduce you to Christopher Jordan, and Chris, say hi.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me on, Jay.
And man, thank you so much for jumping in there when I needed a guest. You came in right in on time for me, and I was sitting there thinking, oh man, I want to pick this guy's brain. I can't wait. I can't wait to do this show.
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about it for a while, so I'm glad to finally make it happen.
Exactly. And right off the bat, I want to ask you something because it's been in the news lately. Three-eye atlas. I want to pick your brain. What do you think about it?
Okay, I come down pretty hard on the line that it is a comet.
Yeah. Me too.
And I love Avi Loeb.
Yeah.
I love his work. I will say he is shooting at like a 25 percentile.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's because he said the same thing about Oumuamua.
Yeah. That
it was an alien probe, all kinds of stuff. It just, nope, floating rock, went right on by. So he missed that one.
Yeah.
The alien sphericals that he recovered from the seafloor, he got those, but tests are still out. We're still waiting on results. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know. So yeah, out of that right now, not really, is shooting about a 25%. And he did exactly what science is supposed to do, Jay.
Yeah. Which
is bravely and boldly, hyperbolically hypothesize.
Right.
You know, without the thought experiment.
Well,
we don't go a lot of places with science. And yes, he's said like 2 to 3% chance. Maybe it's this.
Yeah. And Avi himself has said that, one of the reasons why he brings up the whole alien connection to it is because that gets people to pay attention to science. It gets people to start questioning and wondering about it. Whereas if he didn't bring up an alien connection to it, it would be, page 45, the last page of the newspaper,
Just a comment. And I literally, just before we did this interview, saw somebody comment on a person that's involved in the communities that we're both in. Mm-hmm. She made a post from her blog and everything, and somebody was like, why isn't this all over the news? They're hiding it. And it's like, no, it's not all over the news because it's a comet.
Right.
Dude. That's why it's not all over the news. And unfortunately, no. And it's literally a catchphrase of my show, Curious Realm, make science sexy again.
Exactly.
Like science used to be sexy in the world, and it was cool.
Yeah.
And now it's one of those, like, it's verboten. And it's just not sexy. And it's like, what? So yes, making the ostentatious, bold statement that possibly small, minute chance it could be, makes it sexy.
Yeah.
It makes it sexy again.
Yeah.
And it makes people want to look at it in a different way.
Exactly.
And it's one of those, we now have another interstellar comet coming in right now. And people are all aflutter in the community like, it's another one coming. And it's like, yes, another interstellar object. And it's very interesting how when the Atlas system went online, was just before Oumuamua.
Yeah.
And that system is specifically made to find interstellar objects.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is for. And this is only the third now with 4-eye atlas, the fourth interstellar object that we've ever studied. So,
well, before we weren't able to detect something coming in from outside our solar system.
Exactly.
Right? So this is new because we now have the technology to do it.
Yeah, precisely. So it's exciting. It's great stuff. But what we have to remember is that we don't know We know how comets from within our Oort cloud and things like that form and what their behaviors are, but we do not know because, hey, this is only the third interstellar object that we are aware of. So we haven't had like decades of study on it, you know? So even when it comes to the metallurgy and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're comparing it to what we know about the comets in our solar system, and not something that's coming in from the Sagittarius area or something like that.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that was one of the things that, of course, made Avi say it may be something like that. Is because it is coming from the Sagittarian area, which is where the wow signal originated from, all kinds of things. So there were a few, and one of my favorite phrases is correlation is not causation.
Right. And you brought it up, so the wow signal, tell my audience what that was.
Well, the wow signal, I want to say it was 1972. There was a signal that was in the hydrogen range of things, but beyond the realm of like a hydrogen burst from a star or anything like that. It was a long sustained signal that when the researcher from SETI saw it on the chart, he circled it and wrote wow.
All right.
And that gave it its famous name, but that was, as far as we know, the only thing that may be intelligently directed toward us from somewhere else. And that's still hearsay, conjecture as to whether or not that's the fact. Once again, it was a burst within the radio range of hydrogen gas.
Yeah.
Which is all over the cosmos, like in one of the most plentiful things around. So
that movie Contact with Jodie Foster was kind of based on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Chris, viewers of this show may not know this, but when I started putting my show together a couple of years ago, there were two podcasts that I had been on that I was like, oh, that is giving me the idea to do mine. And Chris's Curious Realm was one of those where I've been interviewed by him several times on his show, usually at conferences where we were giving talks or something. But I wanted to let everyone know that you were an inspiration.
I appreciate that.
To this show, actually, the way that I do it, and I've had technical questions that you've answered for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Early on, and so you could say Chris here is the godfather of the J. Michael Show.
And we always had a good time whenever I had you on at the conferences. That's one of the things that I love doing with my show, is actively going out in the field and covering shows in a different kind of way like that.
Yeah.
I guess this year was my 26th show to cover when I went and did the IRVA convention, the Remote Viewing Association convention.
Yeah.
That was my 26th conference to cover in such a way.
But you do a lot of them. You go all over the nation, right? Tell me some of the places you've been and people you've interviewed.
Oh, geez. This year, let's see. I was at Sci Games. That was the first inaugural basically like Olympics for telekinetic and remote viewing, precognition, things like that, even dowsing, that kind of stuff. It was really phenomenal. It was, and I do events for a living, like big time corporate events. I love it. It's great. This was the coolest conference I've ever been to, man.
Wow.
Like seeing live demonstrations of this, people being put to the test of their skill set within a timed period.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. The winner of the Mind Sight competition, which if you've seen like the Caroline Corey Superpowers documentary, That was a really good one that goes into the concept of mind sight and the idea of being able to see without using your eyes.
Is this like remote viewing? Is that what this is?
It's a little bit different than remote viewing. Remote viewing is a very controlled atmosphere where you are given a specific coordinate that and task where it's like your coordinate is hashtag 15685. And you are to remote view the activity going on at that coordinate. And that's your tasking. So as opposed to that, mind sight is literally where you put on this like 2-finger thick blindfold and proceed to see the world around you. I mean, to the point of seeing colors, to the point of seeing shapes. It's kind of like the old Zener cards, you know, like from Ghostbusters, where it's like, oh, it's a wavy line, but it's a blue wavy line.
Yeah,
Things like that. And to see my son was there with me, and he went into the mind sight room with the kids and was doing mind sight.
Wow.
Was able to recognize the color card that was held up in front of him while he was blindfolded. Things like that.
Wow.
It was really phenomenal. And
so when a person is doing this, are they projecting themselves outside their body so that they can see what the person's holding, or how does that work? How are they doing it?
It's more like you are gathering the impression and receiving, more like you're tuning in to something. And that's it's pretty fascinating. And the woman that won the mind sight competition, they had 6 colored pegs on a board, and they gave her a jar while blindfolded with 24 rings inside that matched the pegs. So like four rings per peg. She got all of them in 2 minutes.
Wow!
Like didn't miss a single one, Jay. Did not miss a single one. Got all 24 in under 2 minutes. Blindfolded.
Wow.
Not like, yeah. It like to say, I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
Now, of course, somebody will say, well, there's got to be some trick to it. It's like a magic trick. It's sleight of hand. How are they dispel that? Tell me how they're doing it.
You know, the easiest way to explain it is, these powers exist. Yeah. These things are there. Yeah. Just as somebody who in the last year and a half, 2 years has started remote viewing. I took classes from Lynn Buchanan, things like that. And I would consider myself kind of like college, a solid C student when it comes to remote viewing. But I have sat next to people viewing the same target that their descriptions and their drawings are amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. And it's wild. It's really interesting because as opposed to a lot of meditation that I've practiced in life, ecstatic prayer, things like that, where you are trying to hyper focus and ignore everything else. This is very much a tuning in to the everything else, as opposed to trying to silence the monkey mind when you are meditating. You want to give the monkey a typewriter. Just let that monkey go, because your subconscious is connected to all of these other things in the world around you. And that's really the easiest way to explain it, is like non-local consciousness. Yeah. The idea that even you in Waco and me in Austin right now, our electron shells are entangled.
Yeah.
You know? And it's fascinating to think about that you may be able to influence something. And even in the military remote viewing program, it was forbidden to interfere. You were it was very Star Trek in the fact of like you can observe. You can observe your target, things like that, but you are not to remote influence the target.
And is that possible? You could actually influence something?
It's a protocol for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a protocol because, you can remote influence a target.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that's just wild to think about.
I've always believed that everybody is, we're all connected in some way. I mean, on some level, all of us are connected. And so that is it using the fact that distance means nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Distance and time.
Yeah.
Both of them. Because distance and especially time is utterly relative to the observer.
Mm-hmm.
The prime example of that is if you go to the moon, you need a different watch.
Right.
Because gravity's different.
Right.
Time passes differently on Jupiter and Mars than it does here. So, and it's kind of the same way. Because of gravity and things like that. So distance doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. It's really interesting. And of course, sure, you can remote view the future. But you have to understand that come the time for that evidence to come to you, there may have been 85 quantum decisions that have happened between now and then that have changed the way that outcome happens. Mm-hmm. So remote viewing the future isn't necessarily the most accurate, but when you're talking about past events, things like that, there's tons of data out there, and it's really, really interesting to dig into. Honestly, it is probably the most fascinating community that I'm involved with.
Wow. Well,
aside from the Sci Games, I went to the International Remote Viewing Association conference this year. Again,
MUFON.
I was actually flown out to cover the 9/11 Truth Conference with the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth and the 9/11 Justice Council. So that was really cool. And
July, you did MUFON in July, didn't you? Or you were out there at Roswell?
That was last year. That was last. I was in Roswell. Yeah, I went to Roswell UFO Festival. And that was really great. I enjoyed that. I think that'll probably just be an annual family trip for us.
Wow.
Since it's right next to my wife's birthday.
Yeah, because you had some really cool interviews with different people who are involved with Roswell. And I've always been fascinated since the 70s when I heard about it, Roswell's been a thing. I think the first time I heard of Roswell was In Search Of, the TV show, where they talked about it.
Yeah. Leonard Nimoy, man.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Last year you came out with a book, the Field Observation and Encounter Log. This is a wonderful, wonderful workbook, a fantastic thing that anyone who is going to study the paranormal, the supernatural, UFOs, things of that nature, you absolutely need this book. And I'm going to get Christopher to tell me all about his book, because that's one of the things I want to pick your brain about.
Sure.
Go ahead. Tell me about your book.
Well, we met at conferences. Yeah. I attend a lot of conferences. I'm involved in a lot of paranormal research communities. Everything from parapsychology to UFO, UAP to paranormal ghosts, cryptids, all kinds of things. And my brother and I attending these things and just driving and talking on the way home, it was one of those, it dawned on me that the one thing that doesn't happen regularly is writing things down as they occur. I hear tons of stories of people who, came back to camp and told people what happened, things like that. But when it comes to science, like my son right now is preparing for the science fair, for his first science fair. And I explained to him that he would have to do this journal where every day he needs to go and observe the crystals that are growing. And did they grow today? Hey, this is the date. This is the time. No crystal growth observed. That's what a scientist does. They don't play with chemicals, and then when something happens tomorrow, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
They write it down in real time as it occurs. So as Curious Research, a lot of my mission is to prepare researchers in the world of paranormal to shake hands with science, and science to shake hands with paranormal researchers.
Exactly.
To get science to reopen their mind, step outside of their box, and back into the world of, much like Avi Loeb, brave, open questioning.
Sure.
You know?
And there's nothing, of course, wrong with that, but a lot of people base everything on what they believe rather than what they can prove. So the difference is there. Talk about that.
That is literally exactly what my episode a few days ago was about. Like, I just recorded it with Anne Celine, and that is exactly what we discussed, is the idea of how our belief plays into these things. So the idea of writing this down, and not just writing down your experience, but also writing down important data information, things like cardinal direction, which way were you facing? You know, if it's, and the whole book is big enough to fit in your back pocket.
Yes.
It also has a rule measure on the back, so you can lay it down, take a picture of a track that you find, anything like that. Because once again, data is king, and that's the idea. So you have numerous data fields there aside from just your location. There's GPS location, if you're able to put that, where there are other witnesses, what are their names, what's their contact information, all kinds of things. And the idea is, while you're sitting against a tree and Bigfooting for the weekend, if something happens, you write it down right then while it's fresh. A lot of my inspiration came from the show The First 48 on A&E. Where if investigators don't get good data within the first 48 hours, a case may never be solved. Ever.
Right. It almost always becomes a cold case.
Well, and the issue that you have is that, once again, your belief becomes part of that. If you don't write things down as soon as you can, what happens is, and it happens rapidly, within an hour or two, you have started passing your paranormal experience across the filter of your belief system.
Right.
And things like that. And it either becomes a confirmation or denial of belief at that point, and it ingrains the experience into you in a different way.
Right.
Than what you would get in a raw fashion. You know, so when it comes to the scientific part, being able to give this data over to science eventually, you want that dispassionate part there. You know, of course, anything else will be told in the story whenever you hand things over, that kind of stuff. But yeah, the idea is to be able to get as much data as you can in the field while the iron is hot.
Right. And you know, we were talking about the scientific method. A point that you made: every paranormal experiencer and investigator is a citizen scientist. Talk about that.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's the idea that, you know, science begins with experience and question. That is the first step of the scientific method. Literally. Is, you know, you have an experience, you question it, you gather data, and then you form a hypothesis. So all of that occurs like with it, and that occurs rapidly in a paranormal experience. The gathering data is where a lot of people go astray. And filtering that data and going through things, because once again, they're looking at it through a filter of belief.
Right.
Instead of looking at it as just cold data. And I hate saying it like that. But it is important to look at it like that. One of the things that I bring up, especially when it comes to the scientific method, is the idea that, yes, we are all citizen scientists by the fact that as soon as we've had a paranormal experience, that scientific circle, and it is a circle, it goes back to the beginning. You're supposed to go back and gather more data and do it over and over and wash, rinse, repeat like shampoo, folks. And people forget to repeat frequently. And that's just it. We forget these things. We forget to finish the process. And when it comes to data, we're supposed to just look at things in a point of fashion that something is added to the data set. And even if, let's say you bring me a picture or a video with a red circle on it, Jay, and you're like, this is it right here. And myself, as being able to, having 30 years experience editing audio, video, recovering audio, video for archival purposes, things like that. If I am able to, through that experience, explain the trick of light that caused what you saw, that doesn't remove the experience. It doesn't remove the moment that you went, oh my God, what is that? And your reality was pried open with a crowbar. Right. You know, it doesn't remove that. As a matter of fact, what happens is you now have contributed to the scientific data set of known quantitative, which only further narrows the anomaly that we're looking for. Right. Because now we can better describe now we have something different that's a known quantitative that we can go, okay, here's one more thing to add to that. Yes. You know, so you've still contributed to science, even though what you consider is your evidence has been explained.
Right. And one thing that just gets me, and this happens all the time, is people will see something on a web camera online and they'll point out, oh, you see this flashy light looking thing here. And I'm looking at it going, it's a water drop on the lens. And you cannot convince them because they have now started to believe that it's a vortex opening up on some Russian web camera they're looking at, and there is no convincing them that it's a drop of water on the lens.
Yeah, you will, and that's just it. You won't be able to do that. You won't be able to. And here's a prime example. I'll play something for you, and this is kind of the danger of social media here. This is a clip that I play regularly. So here you go. For those watching or listening rather, what you're seeing is a dark orb with a bright undulating circle around it that's you know, changing color rapidly, moving from top left of the screen to the bottom right in a decent clip, not crazy fast, but not quite floating either. And when you break that down, now, granted, if I posted that on social media and just said, I recorded this in my backyard. Yes. I get all kinds of responses.
You'd have 100 people come out and go, oh, man, I saw that same thing in my backyard, and it's a UFO. It's an alien.
No, exactly. Like, I see those all the time. Yeah. And that's just it. Now, if I give you a little bit of data. Right. Some context. I say this was recorded in February, and it was recorded facing southeast. It was recorded at 7 p.m. at night, and at this altitude from the horizon. It would not be hard to decode the fact that is the dog star Sirius in my telescope, unfocused. Yes. So as you know, I do a lot of backyard astrophotography, things like that. One of the last things you have to do, or one of the things you have to do with a large telescope, is align it to 3 stars so it will track properly. Right. Sirius is one of the brightest stars that I can see in my backyard. So that's my third alignment star, always. And yeah, I was getting it aligned, and before I did, I was frozen on it, and it kept going out of frame while I was trying to focus
Right.
So yeah, it's out of focus, which is why it's brighter like that. The Dog Star Sirius changes colors between red, blue, and green, and the undulation is just literally from chromatic aberration of
And the atmosphere.
Yeah, just temperature layers of the atmosphere.
Right.
And the motion of it is because, well, that's the actual motion of the star in the sky itself, just exaggerated by 8 times because of my telescope.
And the fact the Earth is turning.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're standing on the Earth, and therefore you're turning.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just exaggerated by 8 times the speed because of the magnification of the telescope. So yeah, when you add all those facts together, now, and once again, that's why those kind of data fields are at the beginning of each entry page in the field guide, because that's the kind of stuff you need. And folks, if you're out there on social media, and don't get me wrong, I firmly understand the want of some people not to give their name, because you can deal with a lot of ridicule in the world. However, if you see a post like that and it is an anonymous post, that's your first data set. That's your first piece of data right there. Somebody was willing to post that and not take credit for it.
Right. But you were talking about context, and if you just posted, I was in my backyard and I filmed this, they're going to assume that you filmed that with your cell phone, and there's no context, there's no data there to go with. Exactly,
and that's the other part is that, and that's how you can decode, or I guess debunk a lot of videos that people post in want of, I guess, online popularity or just clicks on their social media page. Because if they aren't giving you data, if they aren't giving you those things, and if they aren't just upfront with it, and then if they're pressed for it and they still don't give it, those are things that you need to take into consideration.
Right.
Also, people that post such things specifically from their backyard 5-6 times a week,
right,
numerous nights over, take that into consideration, because at that point it's no longer an anomaly.
Right. This is happening frequently.
It seems like it's on schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it seems like that person has decided tonight, I'm going to see something unusual and I'm going to make it happen.
Well, and that's just it. And even with the 3-Eye Atlas, to bring this conversation back to that, it's the fact of there is so much sensationalism around all these things, Jim. It can hinder science from wanting to be involved because of that, which can make things hard. And at the same time, it can really lead the communities astray. And especially when it comes to UFO, UAP experiencers, things like that. To where I think for any experiencer, it's hard to come forward, period, because there's a lot of personal ridicule and a lot of personal risk involved with telling a story that is incredible.
Right.
And the example I give is Linda Napolitano with the New York abduction.
Yes.
There was a whole lawsuit that came from that recent episode and that recent Netflix documentary from Peter Robbins and her. Yeah. Because things like that, A, it's a hit piece. B, it also is calling into question somebody's experience in a way that discourages other people from coming forward with experience.
Right.
And we need to consider that, it might be a great hit piece, whatever. I thought it was personally bad. Like, I was very proud to get permission from Peter Robbins to do an episode about it before their lawsuit even came about. He gave me permission, which was a huge point of honor. But yeah, things like that, I think, don't really help the community.
Yeah. What did the lawsuit determine?
The lawsuit was basically saying that the documentary was done under false pretense.
Mm-hmm.
The documentary ended up being produced in a way that defamed people,
right,
and their work. So, and that was not the intent that was given to both Peter and Linda when they agreed to be in the documentary.
right.
So, yeah.
And another thing,
I don't know if it's been settled, but
with documentaries is that you can portray something in such a way that you make it very, very mysterious when in fact it wasn't mysterious at all. You know, it's the way it's edited. It's the way it's put together.
No, absolutely, and that's just it.
Yeah.
And
well,
that
people will say things like the camera doesn't lie, and I'm like, I'm a videographer. The camera lies quite well and quite efficiently.
Camera will tell any story I tell it to tell.
Exactly.
That's the cool thing about a camera, my
Bingo.
friend. It'll use whatever lens you want. It'll use whatever lighting in whatever way you want.
I can make a camera lie to you all day long.
That's right. That's right. And that's just it. And even whenever you start getting into AI and things like that,
yes,
there are a few things that are telltale about some AI stuff out there. Hands,
yeah.
much like actual artists. Hands.
and certain movements also. I can the moment I see it, I go, "That's AI." I know it.
Yeah.
And you probably do it too, as anyone in my audience. There are people that you just see it and you just know that's not natural.
Yeah, precisely. And those things, I think, once again, they're cool. I love watching them, but I don't think that they do a lot to further the actual conversation. And right. I don't think that the sensationalism helps further the conversation.
Yeah, you know, it's like in film. I can understand needing to use AI because you're going to film something that's incredibly dangerous and you could hurt somebody doing it. Yeah. So, yeah, you'd use AI. But otherwise, you lose the artistry of the actor itself, the show itself.
Even when you're talking about backgrounds and things like that, like, hey, there was a whole department that used to do matte painting.
Yes,
like that's all they did was paint backgrounds. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis the Menace was the last movie to actually use like full mattes, where like everything was matte.
And Foley artists that did sound effects.
Yeah. And that's just it. Things like that add a lot to things, but I don't think that they do a lot to add to the conversation of these strange topics.
Yes.
I think they serve to distract, and even the idea that's one of the things I've considered and brought up numerous times on my show when talking about Three Eye Atlas is the distraction itself.
Yes.
Part of a larger overreaching plan.
Yeah.
When you're looking at social media and the alphabet agencies and the other agencies that have given money to it.
Yeah.
But people forget that InQtel, the financial arm of the CIA, gave Facebook its part of its initial round of funding. Wow.
Yeah.
And Facebook was square in the middle of things like Prism and stuff like that, which was just gathering data on all of us.
Yeah.
So the idea and there was the awesome article, which got the community all kind of kerfuffle from Leslie Kean, the same lady that wrote the article that right after Lou Elizondo put his clips on CNN. But her latest article was about how alphabet agencies and contractors have used stories from within the UFO community as cover for their black budget projects for decades.
Right. You and I are in total agreement again.
It's like, why wouldn't they? At that point, you don't need to pay a PSYOP officer to come up with the backstory. There's a whole community coming up with them for you that's already fully buying them and selling them to each other. Yeah. So just piggyback.
Yeah, there you go. Just use one of theirs. Getting back to your points on your book, us versus them, paranormal versus science mentalities do not help research. Go into that for me.
Well, that is once again the idea that there are a lot of people, especially within paranormal communities, that are dead set against science. And the prime example is the UFO UAP community.
Right.
I don't know if you watched the NASA panels on UFO UAP that happened.
And there was some stuff recently that I missed.
There were 2 NASA panels that happened in the last couple years. The most recent was the House hearing with new whistleblowers, but or new witnesses rather. But specifically the NASA panel, the first one, they came on and they were like, "Listen, we're very glad to be a part of this. We think it's incumbent upon us to research this. I understand why many scientists have shied away from it for a long time, and they went through, they eviscerated the Go Fast video, all kinds of things. But went into the fact that, we don't have a lot of sensor platforms that detect these things. So, hey, NOAA, if you have things that can detect in these ranges, get with us. And let's come up with an overarching program of data where we can all collaborate on data. And then the second one happened. And after that, there were all kinds of people after the first one that were very upset with NASA, that they hadn't wheeled alien corpses out in tubes, that they hadn't brought out chunks of flying saucers, that they were carrying on a 50-year program of lies and deceit. And then the second panel happened. And the same head had to get up in the first 5 minutes and say, what doesn't help scientists want to get involved? Actual threats. You threatening them on social media. You saying that even though they've been involved with NASA for 5 years, that they're part of a 50-year conspiracy to keep things away. That doesn't help.
Well, people can't seem to handle the idea that we don't got nothing. Sometimes just because you're NASA doesn't mean that you have all the answers. You're not studying the phenomenon. You don't know. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know.
That's absolutely correct. That's exactly correct. And that's exactly what science does, is say we don't know, so let's start looking into it. And that's what they said in that first panel. And it was great to hear them say that, because...
And we don't know doesn't mean fill in the blanks. It means we don't know. And we need actual data. We need actual research. We need to know what it is we're talking about before we start talking about it, because otherwise we just have to tell you we don't know.
Well, and on the other side, with the shoe on the other foot now, coming at it from the point of view of a scientist, scientists need to remember that fact that, yes, every experiencer is a citizen scientist. That every experiencer has gone through those first 3 steps at the least, if not the 4th step of science, where they had an experience. They gathered data, had a question and gathered data, came up with a hypothesis. At that point, yes, science has begun. The only question for the experiencer is, did they buy a ticket to the science train, or are they eating a Twix at the station? That's really the only difference.
What a way of putting it.
So, but at the same time, what science likes is things to be categorized.
Right.
For all these things to be labeled paranormal, doesn't make science want to be involved. That's like saying Kleenex. And there's 1,000 different brands of facial tissue, and there's single ply, double ply, pleated, non-pleated, scented, unscented, lotion, non-lotion, all kinds of things that notice. That's like saying kingdom, phylum, species. That's descriptors. Things
but we
like
call them all Kleenex.
We call them all Kleenex.
Yeah.
So you wonder why they don't want to investigate.
Exactly.
And that's just it. So yeah, by saying UAP instead of UFO and saying aerial phenomena, this is a book that I actively picked up at the MUFON conference. Mm-hmm. And this is a scientific desk reference of strange phenomena. Mm-hmm. So phenomena is something that a scientist has to remove from their data set.
Right.
They have to account for the phenomena in their data. The example that I give for that is that if I was in chemistry and I had this solution made of 3 different chemicals, and out of that 100% being put into a beaker, 95% of that mass is in the beaker. Well, 5% went somewhere.
Yeah.
What happened to it? Did it become sediment? Did it off gas? You have to account now for that 5% anomaly by repeating the experiment, trying it again, seeing if the same 5% disappears, things like that. So the phenomena lands it in the backyard of science. I know people hate the change from UFO to UAP. But when you say phenomena, that means science has to be involved now. Science doesn't have to be involved with anything unidentified. They don't have to be involved with anything flying or any object. Not whatsoever. But when you say phenomena,
well, it's like I would
directly the purview of science.
I would often myself change it UFO to unverified flying object, because that presupposes that you're going to verify what it was.
That's right. No, exactly. And that's just it. Nomenclatures, things like that.
Science is rapidly catching up with paranormal. Are paranormal communities ready to shake hands with science? From your book, tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, specifically the idea that science is rapidly catching up. The example that I give is quantum entanglement. When that won the Nobel Prize a few years ago, it made science start looking at these disciplines in a different way. It made them start looking specifically at the parapsychological in a different way. Not the paranormal, the parapsychological, things like remote viewing, what we started this conversation on. Things like psychic powers, that kind of stuff, where, wait a minute, if one particle in China can be entangled with a particle in Belgium, and they can both influence each other, then all bets are off.
Right.
And it really does change a lot of things.
So is paranormal, is it science? Is that science?
I would say that there are numerous disciplines of paranormal study that incorporate science. Yes. I think people try to utilize a lot of scientific toolage inside of paranormal research, most definitely. But I think what's missing most of the time is the real-time data gathering. Actual gathering of data. And there's good people out there like the Klinga brothers right here in Texas. Shout out to them. They do a great job because they actually use data gathering devices. They use things that they set out that gather data over long periods of time while they're doing an overnight investigation, where they are gathering temperature, humidity, things like that, to see if those things change in a measurable way. If a cold spot forms, if they're in a room where they're like, oh, a cold spot, and then they can timestamp that on video that they recorded the cold spot and that they walked through it, and then they can go back and check their data gatherer and see if the temperature in the room changed at that same time. Things like that. So that's scientific.
Yes. Or did a ghost influence the atmosphere?
Yeah. Seeing somebody walk around recording a EMF meter with a cell phone, not necessarily scientific.
Yeah. And the cell phone itself is emitting signals.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That just happened at something that I was on, and it's hard for me not to say something in the moment. I want people to experience their thing.
Right.
I want them to experience that moment. I don't want to put any of that bad energy out there. But when everybody was standing in a circle and specifically using an app, that one person, and this was the key to me, was one person in the group, because the person who led the investigation was like, oh, use this SLS app and you'll see the ghosts like pop up in stick figure form. But after about 10 minutes, the app timed out and told them that they had to join. And I was like, exactly. So basically what that means, folks, is while we were walking around and people around them were using the SLS app, that app was dialing home to the server the whole time, counting down how much time they were using the thing.
Yes.
And then serving them the message saying, hey, you need to join now. Your free trial is up. Because if they weren't connected to the server, that wouldn't happen.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So yeah, it was one of those, like, I hate to tell you that the hits that you were getting were probably everybody around you dialing home to the server using the same app.
Right. Data versus evidence. Why science wants data. Take it.
Evidence. This is the example that I give on my show and on other shows, Jay. And maybe it's just because I've spent my night in jail and my time on paper. Evidence is what clears you in court. Evidence is what keeps you out of prison. Never let it be less than that. The day you let it be less than that, you're in some kind of trouble. Because evidence means it has gone through the rigors of testing. It has gone through the rigors of eyes better than yours, knowledge better than yours. And to, at least for me, to come off an investigation after a weekend and say, we have evidence. No, you have data. You have data sets, and you have pieces of data that need to be culled through and need to be looked at by other people, need to be verified, need to be put through experimentation, things like that when it comes to the scientific method.
Right.
Because that's an important part of the scientific method is after you form the hypothesis, you test it with experiments, and then you analyze the data from that, and then you get conclusions. So if you aren't error checking it, if you aren't giving it to somebody who's willing to error check you, then you need to consider that. And jumping to the realm of evidence, like you said, people with a Ring video camera, that kind of stuff, where it's like, I got evidence last night. It's like, well, you got some data.
You got something on camera.
Let's put it through rigors and see what it is.
Yeah, and even as simple as just asking what direction does your Ring camera point in, because what part of the sky you got your evidence in actually can tell you exactly what it was that you saw.
Absolutely.
And you may not have seen it yourself. You saw it on a Ring camera, which could be an anomaly with the electronics of the camera, and it has nothing to do with something that was actually in the sky.
Yeah. Kind of the same way with trail cameras. One of the issues that you deal with there is the rewriting of the same SD cards. That kind of stuff where, you can start getting footage that's old footage
overlaid in
underneath
new footage.
Yeah. You see other things happening that seem very ghostly or seem like something moving in the background, when really it's just pixelization from previous records.
We're not going to get to all of your data points that you had sent me, but
That's
there was
okay.
one here that we touched on earlier, and I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
A picture is not worth 1,000 words. Science needs the 1,000 words.
That's right. That's right. And the example I give with that, I say that because when I started my career in audio video, it was in the wedding and mitzvah industry.
That's what I did.
That was 90% of my bread and butter, was doing that every weekend. And you always have pictures worth 1,000 words. No, it is not. Feel free to take a 4-year-old that has never been to a wedding, and give them a picture of a toast at that reception.
Yeah.
And have them explain to you what's happening.
Right. And they can't.
They can't because they have no frame of reference of the story.
Right. They don't have context.
They don't know what a bride is. They don't know what a groom is, which means they probably don't know what a toast is. So there's all kinds of, maybe they know what dancing is, things like that. They'll recognize some elements, but they won't be able to put the story together. So it's not worth the 1,000 words unless you give it the 1,000 words.
Yeah.
That's like right. You have to have the data behind the picture. You have to have the story behind it. And even as a documentary filmmaker, it's only as good as the script that you've written.
Right.
Otherwise, and I explained this to my son the other day, because he was like, "How did you know what all that was about? You weren't watching." And I was like, "I was listening to it while I was working." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "How do you think blind people watch a movie?"
Yeah.
Yeah. They're still able to. Yeah. Because they can recognize the different voices and the characters by name and things like that. So they enjoy it in a different way.
Yeah. They're multitasking.
Still able to follow a movie. It's same thing. Like I go to sleep to old school radio dramas on the road. And it's kind of the same thing where it's like, no, it's described in other ways in audio form.
Right.
And that paints the picture. So it's understanding that we need the other data points. We've got to have them when you're examining these things. And if somebody doesn't have them or can't remember them, that can lead to issues when it comes to verifying information.
Before I let you go, there is one thing that I do want to pick your brain on. I want you to tell me what your opinion is. It's been in the news for the last 5 years, UAPs. So tell me, from your point of view, what is a UAP, and are there aliens out there? Are we alone in the universe?
I absolutely do not believe that we are alone in the universe.
I don't either.
Not whatsoever. When it comes to UAPs, when it comes to a lot of these phenomena, Jay, I believe that they are integrally related. And when I say that, it's because of physics. It's because of things like vibration, and dimensional vibration specifically. The idea that, yes, and feel free to look it up, folks. Normally on my show, this is where I would pop up the news article. But this
is my sources.
Yeah. Like I show the sources on screen, even whenever I'm talking about, patents. Like I show the patent, because it's one of these things are out there. We question them, we wonder, but I think that there is a thin meniscus that separates us from numerous other places, just like suds in a tub. And each one of those suds is an individual bubble. It's fully formed. It's of a different size, different texture, all kinds of things. The only thing that separates us is that vibration. That idea that we can't get there because of this physicality.
Right.
So if something, and there's an interesting story that was told by Hal Puthoff at the first IRVA conference that I went to in Menlo Park, California, and it was one that's been referred to a few times in the last couple of years, but it was one of a person having a close encounter of the fourth kind, going up, touching the craft, and his hand passing through it. And it's talked about. I'm a comic book nerd. I don't know if anybody ever read DC Comics, but the Flash did it regularly, where he would phase through an object. He would vibrate his molecules to the same frequency as the wall and pass through the wall.
Right.
Things like that. So that's actual physics. Those are real concepts. Those are real ideas. So the idea of any craft that would be able to maneuver in such a way, any craft that would be able to manipulate gravitational field, you are talking about a different world of power distribution. You're talking about a different world of power usage, and definitely something that would be operating in a uber high frequency range.
Right.
To the point that it changes you.
Exactly.
And the example I give is kind of if you get a mechanical watch near a magnet, it'll never quite tell time right again.
Right.
Gears will always be somewhat magnetized because of being in that field.
Right.
And when you're talking about any of these experiences, Jay, they change you in a different way. They change the frequency in which you think.
Yes.
And the way, because that's something I talk about all the time on shows whenever I'm talking about binaural beat therapy and binaural beat music, is frequency is not just a sound and a color, it's a thought form. How frequently are you thinking something? So it changes the way you think and process and do everything. And if you were in much like the watch, if you were in the presence of that kind of energy, it would integrally change you in a way.
Yes.
You would be forever magnetized to that frequency.
Or you would be forever mucked up.
And it's really interesting. There's a lot of study that's been done, my friend, about UFO experiencers and the rays in other paranormal experiences.
Right.
After their UFO contact experience.
Exactly.
It's really interesting. Kathleen Martin, the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, has done some amazing work.
She's been on the show.
Statistically and everything. I love Kathleen. She is a dear, dear friend.
She's wonderful.
She is. And a lot of her work is about the spiritual change and even the healing abilities and stuff that come to people after their experience.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that we are on the cusp of some beautiful things as humanity. And it's one of those, I think that most of it has to do with dimensional science and the fact that we uniquely as humans can take part in that vibration, Michael.
Yeah.
We can pluck the strings of the universe and make them sing just like a guitar.
Wow.
It's pretty fascinating.
Oh, man. I have enjoyed this show. His name is Christopher Jordan. He is the podcast host of Curious Realms. He has a wonderful, wonderful book called Field Observations and Encounter Log. And you definitely need to grab that book. You need to listen to his podcast, check out his podcast, and say goodbye, Chris. It was so wonderful having you on the show. Man, I have enjoyed picking your brain. Oh, goodness. Take care.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time on the J. Michael Show.
Goodbye.